The Tories are calling for Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino's resignation after news broke his staff knew about the pending transfer of notorious serial killer and rapist Paul Bernardo to a medium security prison for months before the minister found out. But the minister himself is refusing to step down.
I have dealt with it, and we will now always defend the rights of victims.
If his staff had really kept a secret from him of this enormity, he would have fired them a long time ago. But he hasn't, because he knows, and they know, that he knew way back then.
I invite the leader of the Conservative Party to repeat that allegation outside of the House. I will absolutely reject it.
And because he has misled this House, will the Prime Minister fire him?
Yeah.
What did they get with Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, the last time they were in government? Cuts to the Correctional Services of Canada in the amount of $300 million in their last year of government.
We did request an interview with Minister Mendicino, but his office declined that request. To get more reaction, Tim Danson is here. Mr. Danson is the lawyer for the families of Paul Bernardo's victims, Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Hi, Mr. Danson. Good to see you again. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
When we spoke last, the thing that I remember you saying very specifically and getting across to Canadians was the fact that the families themselves of Paul Bernardo's victims did not find out about his transfer until after the fact. Kind of against that backdrop, what was your reaction when you learned, now very recently, that Minister Mendicino's staff did have a heads up, in fact, months in advance?
My reaction was identical to the French's and Mahaffey's, which is one of shock and disbelief. It's hard to reconcile the way this story is unfolding. One of my big concerns in all of this is that how is it possible that a decision of this magnitude involving, Canada's most notorious dangerous offender, a sadistic sexual psychopath, not my words, those are the words of the medical experts, that this was kind of kept secret. And I have to tell you, now that I know that they first had wind of this, when the decision was made back in March, and then they waited until basically now to release it to the public and to the victims. Did anyone think for a nanosecond that, for example, tonight is the anniversary that Paul Bernardo abducted Leslie Mahaffey and she's murdered on Father's Day? Did anyone in Corrections Canada, they talk about victims' rights, did anyone even have a clue that their timing was quite, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, it's just insensitive. But the timing is such to inflict as much harm as possible on the Mahaffey family, who have clearly suffered enough. I don't know how you do this by email in any event. How is it possible that a decision of this magnitude, that the commissioner doesn't pick up the telephone and speak to the deputy minister or the minister himself about this? And if you don't do that, how is it possible to have an email to the minister's office and not to the minister or the deputy minister directly? I mean, is this all part of the systemic plausible deniability? I don't know. It's disturbing.
You mentioned the families whom you represent, and you mentioned that they also had a reaction to this. Has anyone from the government reached out to them? Have there been any conversations that have taken place since all of this came to light?
Well, the Commissioner of Corrections Canada did return a call from Donna French, and they did speak. The minister phoned me this morning, and it was important to him that I communicate to the families how much he is concerned about this, that he understands their anguish and despair, and that a review is taking place. And certainly from our perspective, and certainly what I communicated to the minister this morning, is that, I'm not interested, we're not interested in the politics of this. We're not going to get involved in the politics of this, but we are interested in action being taken, and that the minister reiterated that he did find this decision to be shocking and incomprehensible. And as the minister, the buck stops with him, and hopefully he will give a directive or do an order in council to rescind this decision and move Paul Bernardo back to maximum security at Millhaven.
Let me ask you a little bit more about that, because what he did say today was basically there's a new ministerial direction to make sure this kind of information gets to him in the future, but that doesn't address the substance of what you just raised. The government says that they don't have the ability to basically intervene, that this is the purview of correctional services, that they're undertaking a review, that the results of that review will come in a few weeks, something to that effect. Why do you contend otherwise? What, in layman's terms, what do you think the government could do here?
Well, first of all, I think this review is a dodge and nothing more than a dodge while the heat is on. I'm still trying to figure out, and I've asked the question, and it was in a letter that I wrote to the commissioner herself, who was part of this decision-making process? Who made the decision? Because I want to know who's reviewing who. Are three people, a panel of Corrections Canada people reviewing a decision made by their bosses? And that's a bit rich for me. And I do believe when not just the minister, but it looks like there's a party consensus, there's unanimity in Parliament and among Canadians that this was a really bad decision and a wrong decision. And it is not acceptable for the government to say that this is a shocking and incomprehensible decision, but we're powerless to do anything about it. The buck stops with the minister. The buck stops with the government. They're the elected officials. They're the ones who are answerable to the people of Canada. This is a public, very important public institution. And if they feel as strongly as they advocate, and I have no reason to doubt their genuineness and sincerity, and I have no doubt to doubt the minister, what he communicated to me this morning, but we're going to judge people by what they do, not by what they say. And in something like this is something where the minister should give a direction to rescind this order, and if it's not carried out, to replace the commissioner.
Did you convey that to him? And if so, what was his response?
I certainly conveyed our view that he had the power to make this decision, to rescind, and that he ought to do so. You know, it wasn't a long conversation. He was listening attentively, and he certainly, you know, reinforced to me to communicate to the families that he maintains the position that this was a shock and incomprehensible. So what more do you need to then now take decisive action? And I mean, obviously we're gonna have to wait to see what this review is, but I do see this review as a dodge. And this is a point where, I mean, this is doing such incredible damage to public confidence in our correction system and the administration of justice. I mean, this can't wait another week. It can't wait 2 weeks. It shouldn't wait another day. Canadians need to trust their political leaders to take decisive action when there is, I don't know, when's the last time there's been unanimity in the Parliament of Canada where everyone considers this to be a bad decision, a wrong decision that should be changed. So, you know, let's take action.
I heard you say, just really quickly, I have a few seconds before I let you go, Mr. Danson, that you don't really want to get into the politics around this, but it was very political today. The opposition, the Tories, are calling for Minister Mendicino to resign. There are others asking for there to be consequences for the staff, for example, who didn't pass this message along to the minister. Do you have a view on that, one way or the other?
Well, I have a very strong view on the need for transparency. The public has a right to know, how did this happen? It sounds like there was that's why I use the expression whether this is part of a systemic bureaucratic, plausible deniability or bordering on willful blindness. I don't know what his staff could possibly be doing if they were aware of this since March, and there's discussions going back and forth, and they don't communicate it to the minister. I mean, that's nothing short of shocking, and it needs to be addressed to see what the truth is.
Okay, Mr. Danson, I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.